Hi everyone, I'm Laura, and today we're talking about something that has become absolutely essential in today's job market, building a personal brand that clearly communicates who you are, what you do, and the value you bring. Now, when people hear personal brand, they often think of influencers or entrepreneurs, that you need a website and a logo, or that it's overly braggy or even cringy. But every single job seeker has a personal brand. The question is whether you've shaped it intentionally or whether it's happening by accident. Because if you don't write your story, someone else will, and your reputation is far too important to let other people take control of. I'm going to walk you through a simple framework I use with my clients, the same one that helps people tell their stories clearly, confidently, and authentically. And we're going to break it down into 9 parts, starting with career clarity. This is the foundation of your entire personal brand, knowing, in simple terms, where you actually want to go. This doesn't mean you have to have your entire life figured out. Career clarity isn't about choosing your forever career. You'll evolve, the landscape will change, and your motivations will shift throughout your career. And that's totally normal. Career clarity is about naming the direction you want to move right now. So, why does this matter so much? Well, employers want to see focus, not, I can do anything. When a recruiter or hiring manager looks at your resume or LinkedIn profile, they're scanning for one thing. Does this person know where they fit in my organization? If your brand says, I'm open to anything, or just looking for something new, or willing to try whatever, it doesn't come across as flexible, it comes across as unfocused. For example, if you've been an office administrator and you apply to roles in HR, marketing, sales support, project coordination, and customer success all at once, you look like 5 different candidates. But a clear direction helps employers see your relevance instantly. Career clarity also guides your job search, so you can stop spinning your wheels. When you're unclear, everything becomes harder. You don't know which jobs to apply to, you don't know how to align your resume to the key functions of the role, you sound generic. Your LinkedIn profile tries to be everything for everyone, and recruiters have no idea where to place you. But the moment you define your target, even loosely, everything snaps into place. Let's say, for example, you're looking for work in operations and decide, I'm targeting operations coordinator or operations analyst roles in manufacturing or logistics. Suddenly, you know which job boards to prioritize and search terms to use. You know which keywords should appear in your resume. You know which problems to focus on and which achievements matter most. You know which stories to tell in networking conversations. And the right kinds of postings will actually find you through the algorithms. Your direction becomes a filter that brings clarity to your entire search. This clarity allows you to frame your experience in a way that aligns with your goals. Here's one of the biggest factors in personal branding. Your past experience is only valuable when it's connected to your future direction. If you don't define where you're heading, your resume will read like a list of disconnected job duties. And I've got news for you. Recruiters and hiring managers will not piece this together. They simply don't have time to read between the lines. But when you do lock in on your target, you can highlight the parts of your experience that matter most and create a narrative that makes sense to your target audience. For example, let's say you worked as a retail supervisor, but want to move into HR. You might highlight training new staff, coaching underperformers, supporting conflict resolution, hiring seasonal employees, creating fair schedules. These are all HR-aligned skills, but they only stand out once you decide that HR is the direction you're aiming for. Clarity attracts the right opportunities and repels the wrong ones. When you're clear, you naturally start showing up differently. Your conversations have more confidence, your LinkedIn headline becomes more targeted, your resume tells a cohesive story, recruiters start reaching out with relevant roles, and maybe even more importantly, you stop chasing jobs that don't fit your strengths and interests. Career clarity becomes a magnet. It draws in opportunities that align with you, and it filters out the noise. Now that we've talked about career clarity, the next big piece of your personal brand is understanding your motivators, the things that actually fuel you at work. And here's why this matters so much. When your work aligns with your motivators, you perform better. You stay engaged longer, you grow faster, and employers know this. In fact, one of the biggest hiring risks for companies isn't skill, It's misalignment. Hiring someone who's capable but not energized by the work almost always leads to turnover. So let's unpack this. Think about the times you've been at work and thought, I could do this all day, or that felt really good. These moments aren't random, they're clues. Maybe you thrive when you're solving complex problems. Maybe you love bringing order to chaos. Or maybe you're energized by connecting with people. Maybe you love building or fixing things with your hands. Whatever these things are, they become part of your brand because they tell employers why you do your best work. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked but super important parts of your personal brand, your leadership and teamwork approach. And before you tune out thinking, well, I'm not a manager, let me stop you right there. Leadership is not a job title. Leadership is a behavior, and teamwork is a skill that shows up in almost every job on the planet. So let's break down why this matters so much for your personal brand. Your leadership or teamwork approach show employers how you work, not just what you do. Your resume already shows your technical skills and responsibilities. Leadership and teamwork reveal the human side of your work style, how you collaborate, communicate, influence others, build trust, and solve problems with a group. Let's say there are two candidates who both list project coordination on their resume, but if one says, I kept cross-functional teams aligned by communicating early, often, and clearly, and the other says, well, nothing, guess who stands out? Employers want people who not only do the work, but do it in a way that strengthens the team. These softer skills are often what differentiates good candidates from great candidates. Because personality fit and leadership style often matter just as much as experience. If you've ever been on a team with someone who constantly brought calm, structure, or encouragement, you know how vital those qualities are to productivity and morale. Highlighting this part of your story gives employers a clear picture of what it's like to work with you. Now, as I mentioned before, you don't need a formal title to demonstrate leadership. Some of the strongest leadership moments come from informal influence, like training a new coworker, taking initiative during a busy period, or mediating a disagreement between team members. Employers want real examples, not generic buzzwords. Anyone can write strong communicator or team player on a resume. It means nothing, though, unless you can demonstrate how you've leveraged those skills to make a difference. Instead of saying, I'm a natural leader, try something like, when our team lost 2 people unexpectedly, I helped redistribute tasks, kept communication flowing, and supported the new hires as they ramped up, which allowed us to hit all our deadlines during a critical period. That tells a much richer story. Strong leadership and teamwork come down to emotional intelligence, awareness, compassion, and the ability to adapt your approach to the people and the situations in front of you. When employers can clearly see this in your story, it gives them confidence that you'll contribute positively to both performance and culture. Let's move on to role scope, which is all about setting context. It helps employers understand the scale, complexity, and level of responsibility you operated within. For instance, saying manage scheduling and coordination means very different things depending on whether that was for a team of 5 or 150, for one location or multiple sites, or for a steady state production line versus multiple production lines with frequent changeovers. Scope gives your experience weight and helps employers compare candidates fairly. 2 people might both say they supported customers, but one handled 10 long-term, high-net-worth clients, and the other handled 80-plus customers per day in a fast-paced retail environment. Both are valuable, but they demonstrate very different strengths. When you include scope, you make it easier for employers to see where you fit. Now, a big misconception is that scope is only for managers or senior roles. But even if you've never managed people or budgets, you still have scope. It can show up different ways depending on the kind of work you do. It might be the volume you manage, products, inventory, daily orders, sales pipelines, customer accounts, or patients under your care. It could be the pace and the pressure of your environment, whether you're keeping production running on a tight schedule, managing high caseloads, or supporting people in time-sensitive, dangerous, or emotionally demanding situations. Scope can also include the complexity of the work, juggling multiple projects or deals at once, coordinating with many stakeholders, or navigating regulated or high-risk environments. All of this helps employers understand weight of the responsibility you carry, which also sets the stage for your achievements. Your accomplishments land harder when employers understand the environment you are operating in. Speaking of accomplishments, this is one of the areas of personal branding that almost everyone struggles with. If you're thinking, I was just doing my job, you're not alone. Most people draw a total blank when asked about their achievements. Not because they don't have any, but because they've never been asked to slow down and look at their work this way. And almost everyone underestimates their impact. But remember, duties describe what you're responsible for. Achievements show what changed because you were there. That's what employers care about. They're hiring someone to solve problems, improve outcomes, and contribute to results, not just do tasks. Two candidates can have the same job title and responsibilities, but their achievements tell completely different stories. For instance, responsible for scheduling production is a duty. Redesigned production schedules across multiple lines, reducing downtime between changeovers by approximately 15% and improving on-time output, is an achievement. One tells me what you were assigned to do, the other tells me the value you delivered. One of the reasons people struggle to identify their achievements is because they think they have to be huge, but your impacts don't feel dramatic when you're living them. They happen gradually. They're often preventative, and they're usually woven into your everyday functions. Guess what? These everyday improvements add up, and they matter. When you start talking through the different projects and initiatives you've contributed to, you start to surface your achievements. Now, another thing people get caught up on are metrics. Numbers help, but they don't have to be perfect. If you have metrics, use them. If you don't, that's okay. Think in terms of percentages, ranges, before and after comparisons, time saved, error reduction, better reliability, or happier customers or teams. If you feel comfortable explaining it in an interview, it's credible enough to include. Even with the advice I'm giving, I realize that this can still be hard to do on your own. If you're continuing to get stuck, it's not because you don't have accomplishments. It's likely because no one is asking you the right questions. This is where working with a career coach can be incredibly helpful. A good coach knows how to dig beneath job descriptions, ask follow-up questions, and help you articulate your impact that you'd never thought to name, without exaggerating or feeling uncomfortable. Often your biggest achievements are hiding in plain sight. Tools and technologies are a supporting layer of your personal brand. They help employers quickly understand whether you're job-ready and familiar with the environment that they operate in. You don't need to list everything you've ever touched. Focus on the systems, software, or equipment that are most relevant to the roles you're targeting, the tools you use regularly or would be expected to know on day one. This section reassures employers that you can step in and contribute quickly without a steep learning curve. Skill development is about showing employers that you don't just rely on what you already know, you actively invest in growing your capabilities. In today's job market, roles evolve quickly. Employers want people who are curious, adaptable, and willing to learn, not just technically qualified on paper. This doesn't have to mean formal education. Skill development can include certifications, workshops, online courses, stretch assignments, or even self-directed learning you've taken to solve real problems at work. For example, if you're transitioning into a new industry or role where certain tools, systems, or technologies are commonly used, but you haven't had formal exposure yet, play around with open source or trial software. Watch YouTube tutorials or spend time in makerspaces or community studios to strengthen your hands-on skills. That kind of proactive learning signals initiative and genuine interest. The key is alignment. Highlight learning that supports your career direction and reinforces the skills you want to be known for. Recognition is about third-party validation, moments where others noticed and valued your contributions. This can include awards, positive performance feedback, client praise, or being known internally as someone people trust or rely on. Think of it like checking reviews before buying a product. Most of us want some kind of social proof before making an investment, and hiring works the same way. If you're ever stuck on what makes you stand out, a great place to start is by asking others. Colleagues can often tell you exactly what they appreciate most about you, or what they consistently come to you for advice or support. Sometimes your unique value shows up most clearly through other people's eyes. You don't need a trophy case. Even informal recognition helps reinforce your achievements and adds credibility to your story. It shows employers that your impact isn't something you're claiming, it's something others have experienced. This last piece of your personal brand is the human element, and it's often the part people are most hesitant to talk about. But just think, skills and experience might get you shortlisted, but connection is what makes you memorable. The things you do outside of work, your interests, passions, and pursuits, help employers see you as a real person, not just a list of qualifications. When employers are choosing between candidates with similar experience, they're often asking, who will fit well on this team? Who do I want to work with day to day? Sharing a bit of your life outside of work makes you relatable. This doesn't mean you need to list hobbies on your resume, unless they're directly relevant to the role. But this human layer fits really nicely in other places, like on LinkedIn, as a short just for fun line in your About section, in posts or comments that show your interests, values, or perspective, in interviews as a brief, natural moment of connection, and in networking conversations where rapport matters. And yes, when you start a new job, it's incredibly common for teams to share fun facts about new hires. This is part of how people bond. You don't need to justify everything, but many interests naturally connect to how we show up at work. Whether you're into sports, creative pursuits, volunteering, or connecting with nature, these activities help you recharge, stay creative, or build resilience, especially during busy or high-pressure periods. The human element isn't about oversharing, it's about showing dimension. It reminds employers that you're not just capable, but relatable, grounded, and self-aware. And when used thoughtfully, it strengthens connection across LinkedIn, interviews, and everyday professional interactions. So when you step back and look at all of this together, personal branding isn't about self-promotion or trying to sound impressive. It's about clarity. Clarity about where you're going, clarity about what motivates you, clarity about how you work with others, clarity about the scope you've handled and the impact you've made, and clarity about how you continue to grow. When you have that clarity, everything becomes easier. Your resume tells a cohesive story, your LinkedIn profile makes sense, your interviews feel more natural, because you're not searching for answers, you're sharing experiences you actually understand. And maybe most importantly, you stop chasing every opportunity that comes along. Instead, you start recognizing which roles, environments, and teams are truly aligned with you. That's when your job search shifts from exhausting to intentional. Your personal brand isn't something you invent, it's something you uncover. And once you can articulate it clearly, the right opportunities become much easier to recognize, and for others to recognize in you.